The campaign commercials are over. The ballots are cast. Now the candidates wait for the votes to be counted. The future of Virginia is about to be decided as the tallying of your vote happens insight into what we'll know tonight and what the campaigns are feeling as we head into the next 4 years. This is election night in Virginia on your local election headquarters.
Good evening from the WAVY Studios. I'm Aisha Tolliver.
And from the WAVY Digital Studio here, I'm Tom Shad. Welcome to our continuing coverage of election night in Virginia. The polls have just closed about 30 minutes ago across the Commonwealth. A lot to cover here, Aisha, so let's get right to it.
All right, Tom, say less. In the race for governor, we are now seeing 52% of the votes coming in for Abigail Spanberger and 47% for Winsome Earl Sears. And News Nation, our parent company, has called it already for Spanberger. So we definitely want to dig into that a little bit. And so we're going to have some analysis of that here coming up in just a minute. But we also want to zoom in on the race for lieutenant governor. The 50% was Ghazala Hashmi and 50% for John Reed. So that's with 6% of the votes in. And so far, things are really tight. No calls in that one at all. We'll continue to follow that closely throughout the rest of the night. And in the race for state attorney general in Virginia, which, as you've seen, has been surrounded by controversy because of texts by Democratic candidate Jay Jones. 52% right now, Jason Miyares, and 48% of Jay Jones, with 6% of the votes in. So still a long way to go tonight. Too early to call, but that really is the one that so many people are focusing in on because of that shift when that controversy happened. We have team coverage of the major races in Virginia.
That's right. We're going to get things started with 10 on your side's Andy Fox, live in Northern Virginia with the Republican candidate for governor, Winsome Earl Sears. And Andy, how are things looking there now, especially since the news that our parent company apparently called the race for Spanberger?
Yeah, and it's not really happy here. I mean, you can see right behind me, there's people standing around, but there's no jubilation or anything like that. We are at the National Convention Center in Leesburg in Loudoun County. No one is surprised by this. There was never one poll that showed her ahead. So we knew that this would likely be the end if it continues on the track that we are expecting it to take. She's behind in every poll. Not one poll showed her ahead. But this was her last night. And this is what's been lost about Winsome Earl Sears. This is her last night at Regent University. She was joined by Lieutenant Governor candidate John Reed, State Attorney General candidate Jason Miyares. In the event she loses, there will be a lot of Monday morning quarterback. What has been lost is this, that she is a lady of first, the first female lieutenant governor, the first woman of color to win statewide office. In 2001, she beat Delegate Billy Robinson. I was with her when she won that race, became the first female Republican in the General Assembly, the first Republican to represent a majority black House district, the first female veteran in the General Assembly, first naturalized citizen to serve in the General Assembly. That is what has been lost in this race. There was never, Tom and Aisha, a commercial that showed what just came out of my mouth, that showed her historic presence in the political landscape of Virginia. Now, what they say about political campaigns, a winning campaign has 1,000 fathers, a losing one, a lonely orphan. And what is happening right now is exactly what we thought would play out, as the polls were always showing Spanberger ahead by as much as 12, 13 points, maybe down to 7, 8 in some of them, but she was always ahead. This is no surprise. We'll have to continue to see how this plays out, but right now the mood here, very solemn, but I think that if you talk to anyone who's been following this race, will say this is exactly what we thought would happen. But they show up anyway because they love Winsome Earl Sears, and a lot of people do, and that's been lost in this race. And when she looks back on this, where were those things about showing me as being a historic figure in this political landscape that we call Virginia politics? Tom and Aisha, that is the latest from here. Tom and Aisha, the music's loud. People out here, not too loud. Back to you.
All right, thank you. Andy Fox reporting live at the Sears Campaign News Nation Decision Desk. calling the race for Abigail Spanberger. 10 on your side's Chris Horn with the Spanberger campaign now in Richmond.
So Chris, Spanberger has been ahead in the polls for months at this point, and now with News Nation, our parent company, having called it, what is the vibe out there tonight?
Well, there's a lot of high morale right here and a lot of excitement, but this word about calling the race from News Nation, premature, at least for the people in here. There's been no victory lap. There's been no appearance by Abigail Spanberger. So we're still a little bit wary of what the actual result will be. It's looking, of course, very encouraging for Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat. She served 3 terms in Congress. She was a CIA agent. She's lived in Virginia since she was 13 years old, and she just feels that service to country and service to the Commonwealth is a privilege that she wants to carry out. Turnout very good today. We're hearing from Jennifer McClellan, the representative from the 4th District. We're hearing from Don Scott, the Speaker of the House from Portsmouth. Both are telling us that turnout has been good. Now, turnout was high the last gubernatorial race, 55%. They think they can eclipse that. Right now, we're just in a wait-and-see situation. We expect to see Abigail Spanberger
lost our has not yet called governor in favor of Ghazala Hashmi. So that just came in literally a minute ago as Chris was giving his report, and our producer was feeding that in my ear. Now, we have a pair of analysts here to keep an eye on what's happening tonight, the results coming in as we speak, and what this means going forward for Virginia. Dr. Rebecca Bromley Trujillo from Christopher Newport University joins me here in the studio. Wow, how things just, quickly change. What is your reaction thus far to the news we just received about Spanberger?
I mean, I would say this is not a huge surprise. I always tell my students there's 2 things you're looking at with elections. It's the fundamentals and the campaigns themselves. And so the backdrop of these races is that we have a Republican president in the White House who's politically unpopular. And the long history of Virginians voting against that party in power really plays into a Democratic win for governor. And so we also have Spanberger and her campaign. And certainly she has really focused on essentially a moderate message focused on affordability and also tying Republican candidates to Trump. And that has clearly been an effective strategy. And we've really seen in the polling in these races, she's been pretty consistent. She's hit that 50% mark and above in most polls really since late September. And so it fits with what we were seeing in the polls. And
about 1 month ago, we had a debate between Spanberger and Sears, Earl Sears, at Norfolk State University, hosted by WAVY TV 10. And that was kind of telling because it looked like Spanberger was playing it rather safe. And Winsome Earl Sears, though, really came out on the aggressive, interrupting Spanberger constantly. We counted 50 times during that debate. If we can show a little clip of what I'm talking about.
Now, in the 4 years that she has been the lieutenant governor, she hasn't made the effort or endeavored to get rid of this tax. And in fact, I will work with anyone, please, on no matter which side of the aisle. Violence, violent rhetoric, we should always be focused and forceful in our denouncement of it.
Going to tell him
and importantly, my opponent, unfortunately, only denounces violence when her side is the target. The statement that you read from President Donald Trump was violent rhetoric that she refuses to denounce. And this is why I say you are not
Earl Sears,
my enemy.
She has her 30
and
seconds.
I wish you would stop using language like that. The current lieutenant governor of Virginia has not stood up for Virginia workers, because right now, at this moment, when Virginia's federal workforce and contractors and communities across the Commonwealth are suffering because of this government shutdown.
And then we also had Abigail Spanberger dodging questions during the debate when Winsome Earl Sears, gave her some pointed questions directed at her. So does this kind of sum up how the race was run in a nutshell for you when you look at this on stage?
Yeah, I mean, so going into the debate, Abigail Spanberger was ahead in the polls, so she's kind of on the offense, and we've got Winsome Earl Sears coming in, really needing to knock it out of the park.
You mean Earl Sears on the offense, and Spanberger more on the defense, right?
Not exact. I mean, what I mean is that Spanberger is essentially not having to knock it out of the park to continue to do well. So for Winsome Earl Sears coming in, she really has to stand out. And so it appeared that her strategy was to really kind of try and get Spanberger off kilter by interrupting her, but that didn't end up being an effective strategy for her. And I actually was watching this debate with my students because we hosted a debate watch party at CNU. And so the reaction to the debate was definitely a question about decorum. And so I do think Winsome Earl Sears is coming in trying to shake things up, but it didn't quite work out that way for her in that debate.
Yeah, so some of the other major issues that really contributed, if this does hold true, we want to be very careful now because, again, this is our parent company News Nation Decision Desk calling the race for Abigail Spanberger rather early, and the other major outlets have not called the race yet. So we want to be very clear on that. But if this projection holds true, it would appear that is the case. And what would you look at some of the major factors in determining a Spanberger victory?
Yeah, so I think the biggest story here is the unpopularity of Trump in the state of Virginia. Yeah. And so there's a lot at play there. I mean, first of all, we've got a government shutdown going on that affects Virginians uniquely because we have a lot of federal workers. And we also had sort of the ongoing firing of federal workers that certainly affects Virginia in particular. And because Trump is unpopular in the state, it made it easier for Spanberger to tie her opponents to him and to focus the race on that message.
All right, thank you very much. And we're going to take a very quick break and come back with much more after this.
Still ahead, a look at some of the quirks with elections in Virginia, including how the presidential elections and votes for governor don't always line up. In fact, it almost never does. Stay with us.
We want to welcome you back to election night here in Virginia. We are keeping a constant eye on all the major races tonight, including governor.
And of course, our big race is the one for governor. And at this point, with a certain amount of precincts reporting right now, 22% in, we're finding a lot more about the results here. So 57% Abigail Spanberger at this moment in time and 42% Winsome Earl Sears. That's with 22% of the votes in. News Nation, as we've reported, has called it. No other major outlets have called it at this point, but we are going to get hopefully some more answers on that in the coming minutes. But we're going to stay on top of that story as well. Tom?
Thank you very much. I'm joined now by 10 on Your Side's Brett Hall here in our digital studio, who is looking at the trends as well as the history of voting here in Virginia. And Brett, you and our team have looked at some interesting stats on governor's races past.
Yeah, absolutely we have. And because so many people following the J. Jones text scandal we're talking about, could we see a split ticket again? Excuse me. We wanted to look, well, how often has that happened? How often has there been a split ticket? But also, how often has there not been a split ticket? Well, Democrats, we're going back to the 1960s here, for 5 of the times that we've gone to vote for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, they've had a clean sweep. The most recently in 2017 when Governor Ralph Northam, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, and Attorney General Mark Herring were in office. Republicans, 3 years out of that nearly 60, 70-year timeline, 1997, 2009, and of course the last time right now, Governor Glenn Youngkin, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, and Attorney General Jason Miyares. But then 5 times since 1969, there has been a split. Most recently in 2005, we had Governor, now Senator Tim Kaine win, while we also had Attorney General, then eventual Governor, former Governor Bob McDonnell win. But that was 20 years ago. Again, it's early right now. We haven't heard any projections on the Attorney General's race. However, could that happen again? With the turnout I've been hearing from many consultants today, it's seeming that Democrats are going to have a very good night indeed. I want to show you this as well. This has to do with the Virginia rule, unspoken rule, but the Virginia rule nonetheless. It's that the party in the White House will then lose power in Virginia. Going back to 1977, it happened with President Bill Clinton, then Governor Jim Gilmore a year later. President George W. Bush, both times Democrats winning in Virginia, he won 2 terms. Barack Obama, however, when he won his second term, Virginians also voted in a Democrat governor. That's the only time that's happened since 1977. Again, it doesn't appear likely that rule is going to bust tonight, but we wanted to give you context. And why does that happen? Well, some might just think it's because it is a referendum on the White House. There's been many political analysts as well as reporters will tell you civics isn't always so knowledgeable. A lot of voters don't understand the difference between what happens on the federal level and the state level and go into the polls not thinking that. That's sometimes how we get this Virginia rule. Tom?
All right. Thank you, Brett. Some really good information there and a couple of other races to check in on while we're looking at these numbers still coming in, including the race for Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi. Apparently, she's got a 10-point lead over John Reed in the race for Lieutenant Governor, and News Nation Decision Desk has also called this race. That just coming in moments ago. And now we switch to the race for Attorney General of Virginia, and you can see Jay Jones. Now this is flipped. A few minutes ago, it was Jason Miyares leading Jones. Now Jay Jones is ahead, 52 to 47%, with 24% of the precincts reporting, and still no word on how this race is shaking out yet. No final call on this, so we're going to continue to watch this one very closely. Now, back out to our crews in the field. And 10 on your side's Chris Horn.
That's right. Chris is live in Richmond with the Jay Jones campaign. As you just heard, Chris, the results so far have it flipped now with Jones back in the lead. What's the vibe like there?
Yeah, well, we talked with Don Scott in the past hour, the Speaker of the House from Portsmouth. He said the whole Jay Jones situation has been weathered by Jay Jones. It's time to look forward. Here's what Don Scott had to say.
I feel like Jay's going to pull it through. You know, I think that whole issue's been litigated, and I think what's really important, people want somebody that's going to stand up for them. It's not about Jay. It's about who's going to stand up in the face of the destruction of Virginia's economy. And right now, Jason Miyares has proven that he will not stand up. And I think people want somebody who has a little backbone who will stand up, and that's what's going to happen.
Every time a result comes up on the screen here at the Convention Center in Richmond, a cheer goes up, even if it is a partial vote. This is the path to victory as the people hear and see it. This is a cavernous room. It's part of the convention center, but it's almost like an airplane hangar. High ceiling, concrete floor, and there's between probably 500 and 600 people in this room getting ready to see Abigail Spanberger become the first female governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Tom, Aisha.
Wow. Chris, thank you very much. Yes, it will be a historic night indeed. And now out to 10 on your side's Markeisha Jackson.
She is with the Jason Miyares campaign here in Virginia Beach. And Markeisha, what are you hearing there? We're seeing this race going back and forth with the results coming in. How's it looking in the Miyares camp?
Hey, Tom and Aisha. Yeah, a lot of people here expected that back and forth where you see Miyares take the lead, then Jay Jones come back and take the lead. So it's still very early, like you said, too early to call that race. Here I am at Jason Miyares' election night watch party, and I mean, this is the crowd that's been building here from the last time you guys saw us on air. This room is filling up. You can see the screens here behind me. Everyone here watching these results closely right now. That's what it looks like right now for Miyares and Jay Jones. Very, very tight race. This has been switching back between the Attorney General results, the governor results, lieutenant governor results. So a lot of eyes on Virginia tonight, a lot of eyes on the Attorney General's race here in this room. Now the stage has said no one has come out yet to say anything just yet. Like I said, still early to tell, but there is a large crowd forming here, a lot of supporters here, a lot of chat and banter about who they think could come out in front, but still that back and forth between Jones and Miyares. Miyares actually voted here in Virginia Beach last week, and then here he is tonight having his election night watch party right here nearby the ocean front. And like I said, large crowd here to support everybody, anticipating what's to come with this highly highly watched race. I mean, this race has quite literally been front and center during this election cycle, and it's still going on, still very tight, and that's exactly how the polls indicated it to be up until this point. And here we are now just waiting for more of those reports to come in to see exactly who will be the next Attorney General of the Commonwealth. Will it be incumbent Jason Miyares or will it be Jay Jones? I'll have much more for you tonight on WAVY News at 10 and 11. Live in Virginia Beach, Markeisha Jackson, 10 on your side.
Possibly the first split ticket in 20 years in Virginia. Still more to come on election night in Virginia.
After the break, what your vote will mean for the Commonwealth going forward in the next 4 years, and one more check on the big race in the state when we come back.
Welcome back to Election Night in Virginia. I'm Tom Shad, and now with a little more analysis on how things are continuing throughout the night, I'm going to send it back to my colleague, Aisha Tolliver, in the studio. Aisha?
That's right, Tom. Joining me now is Dr. Athena King from Old Dominion University. She has been hanging out with us, and we certainly appreciate all of your time today. This is a very historic ticket, right? Up and down, really, if you think about it. And so far, News Nation, our parent company, has called it for Spanberger. Some of the other media companies still not pulling the trigger on that just yet. But what's your reaction to something like that being called so early? And is this surprising? I mean, with double-digit poll leads in a lot of them, is this something that a lot of people saw coming a mile away?
Well, it is kind of surprising because we usually don't see a call this early unless there is just certainty. And I believe that the decision desks took a look at the constant polling, and Spanberger was always ahead, at least for the past 3 months, at least. And it just seemed that they can almost anticipate what the votes are going to look like when they come out of these major centers like Richmond, Northern Virginia, so on and so forth. So calling the Spanberger-Earl Sears race early isn't really that big of a deal. Okay. Now, any others could be.
Right. So as well as Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, that was also called. I know our reporter in the field said, I don't know, no one's reacting at this point. Is that one where you really need a little bit more percentage coming in to make a good, accurate call, would you say?
I would say yes, and we also need to see which precincts and which regions are still outstanding, because if I'm not mistaken, only 24% of the voters come in.
I believe so, yes.
So they are anticipating votes coming from these large urban centers as well as from maybe the western part of the state. And maybe they have a certain comfort level with the polling that they've seen over the past couple of months or so to be able to make that call this early and with that much confidence.
So I just heard from my producer that NBC has officially called it for Spanberger. I got chills just because no matter which way it went, we have history as a female governor in the Commonwealth. I mean, talk to me about the intention and the historic meaning behind this.
Okay, so we would like to think that since we see women in the 21st century serving as governor, historically there have only been 51.
Wow.
And as of this year, there are only 12. So Spanberger, future Governor Spanberger, will be number 13. And there's still several states, I think maybe 36 or so, that have never had a female chief executive. So Virginia gets to cross over from being one of the nevers to now joining states like Michigan and Alabama, so on and so forth, that now have that leadership in the form of a woman.
All right, so now, switching it to a Democratic governor, they say, this is the end of one chapter, and then tomorrow marks the start of almost another chapter, right? What are the things that you feel like Spanberger's really going to have to move on quickly going into the beginning of her term?
Economic issues. Given our proximity to Washington, D.C., we have to keep our, finger on the trigger as to what's going on up there. And I'm pretty certain that that's what she's going to do. She's paying attention to the fact that we've lost so many jobs because of what's happening with that regime.
Sure.
The SNAP benefits still haven't been restored for hundreds of thousands of people. Unemployment's going up, and of course, food prices are going up. Probably, I think my personal bills are like 15-20% higher.
Everyone's feeling it.
Yeah. So I think that that's going to be the first thing that she will tackle. How can I alleviate some of this economic stress on my people, and hopefully get Washington to see what we're doing and maybe pitch in and do their part to alleviate some of that suffering as well.
And we have only about 20 seconds left. I do want you to just talk a little bit about what point do you think will be at a good place to call the Jones-Miyares race?
I would say about 75-80% in.
Of the votes coming in?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to follow that very closely.
Okay.
Dr. King, thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank
certainly
you.
appreciate all of your time. And that's going to wrap things up for us here. But before we go, we do want to get one final check of the big race in Virginia, the race for governor. We talked about this, Spanberger being called by NBC and our parent company, News Nation. But still a lot of votes to count in other races. And even in that one, again, the night is young, still a lot of precincts to come in. Our coverage of election night in Virginia. I'm sorry, we're getting something from our producer. Tom?
No, that's okay. You actually handled that beautifully. I don't want to repeat what you just said, but we are looking at the race for governor at this point, and the News Nation and NBC both have called the race for Abigail Spanberger, and also News Nation Decision Desk has called the race for lieutenant governor, the Democratic candidate there, Hashmi. So we're looking, we're still waiting for the Attorney General's race to come in, and that, again, is too close to call. We're watching the House of Delegates races throughout the area, and, of course, all the local races here in Hampton Roads.
That's right, Tom. And our coverage of election night in Virginia continues. We're going to be here all night with up-to-the-minute results on WAVY.com and alerts from our WAVY News app, as well, of course, WAVY Plus streaming. Tom? Our reporters in the field will join me for WAVY News 10 at 10 on Fox 43 and WAVY News 10 at 11 after the NBA on NBC. We'll also bring you an update on the results around halftime of the game.